The Tempest by William Shakespeare. Retold by Jenny Dooley. An Express Publishing Classic Reader. All rights reserved. Chapter 1. The Tempest. Thunder roared and rain fell hard and fast, mixing with the mountainous waves. The sky was dark and heavy. Sudden flashes of lightning split the clouds and lit up the wild ocean for just a second before everything plunged into darkness again. One of these flashes lit up a small ship which was being thrown about by the powerful waves. The wind howled around the ship and tore at the sails, making the captain look around. He quickly spotted danger looming on the horizon. Land and rocks. Raising his voice, he turned to the boatswain.
My good fellow, talk to the sailors. Urge them to work hard before we are shipwrecked. Hurry! Hurry!
The ship's captain blew his whistle furiously from the quarterdeck, frantically shouting orders, one after another, to the helmsman steering the ship and the crew handling the sails. The boatswain spurred on the men from the main deck.
Come on, men! Harder, my men! Take in the topsail. Listen to the captain's whistle. Blow till you burst your lungs, Tempest, so long as we can maneuver.
While the sailors battled against the towering waves and high winds, struggling to sail the ship away from the fast-approaching shore, the passengers staggered up on deck. Antonio, a man with a heavily lined face and a cold, hard stare, looked around before he spoke.
Boatswain! Where's the captain?
Don't you hear him? Get out of our way. Stay in your cabins. You're helping the storm.
When Gonzalo, an older nobleman with a kind face, noticed the way Antonio pressed his lips into a thin line, he broke in and faced the angry seaman himself.
Now, good fellow, be patient.
I'll be patient when the sea is. Go. Do you think these roaring waves care about a king? Go to your cabin and be silent. Don't get in our way.
Gonzalo did not falter at the boatswain's forceful command.
Remember whom you have on board.
Despite the seriousness of the warning, the boatswain did not lose his nerve.
There's nobody on this ship who I care more about than myself. You're in the King's Council. If you think you can command the Tempest to stop, then we'll stop our work right now. If you cannot, then be thankful you have lived so long, and prepare yourself in your cabin for the worst. Harder, my brave men! Out of our way, I say!
Gonzalo took a step back, and then urged his companions to return to their cabin. Taking another look at the boatswain, he murmured to himself.
I take great comfort from this fellow. He looks like someone meant to hang rather than drown. Let's hope his fate will mean our salvation from this storm.
As the menacing wind blew the ship closer to the rocky shore, The entire crew fought with all their might, trying to gather the sails and steer the ship away from the rocks. The howling winds and crashing waves created a blood-chilling symphony, and, before long, some of the passengers staggered back up on deck. The boatswain was livid when he saw them.
Again? What do you want this time? Will you let us do our job? Do you want us all to drown?
The king's younger brother, a dark-haired man called Sebastian, couldn't stand being spoken to so rudely.
How dare you talk like this, you wailing dog!
Antonio, too, was outraged.
You insolent fool! We are less afraid to be drowned than you are.
Hearing the way the boatswain spoke to his betters, Gonzalo became certain of his first impression.
I'll guarantee that man's fate is not to drown, even if the ship were no stronger than a nutshell and leaking water like a sieve.
The boatswain ignored the three noble passengers and kept shouting out orders to the sailors, who were still striving to turn the ship out to sea again. But the gale-force winds and the slippery rain pulled the ropes from their hands and threw them across the deck. Everyone searched for something to hold on to. The lengthy battle with the sea was taking a toll on both the men's energy and their morale, though. So the ship was pushed closer to the rocks. Suddenly, there was a loud crash and a deafening sound of splitting wood which spread panic on all decks. The ship had smashed onto the rocks and had split in half. Sailors started shouting and bidding farewell to their brothers, wives and children. Despite the dire situation, Antonio and Sebastian were furious. Antonio blamed the crew.
This is all because of a bunch of useless sailors. I wish the boatswain a much more painful death than ours.
Gonzalo shook his head in doubt.
Even though every drop of water swears I'm wrong, and the sea opens its mouth to swallow him, I'm still sure he'll hang one day.
Antonio shook his head and turned towards the cabins below.
Let's all sink with the king.
Everyone's cries were swallowed by the thunder and the rain, hammering against the drenched wood. Gonzalo raised his face to the sky once more before going below deck.
Right now, I'd give 100 miles of sea for an acre of barren ground. The will of God be done, but I'd rather die a dry death.
Chapter 2. The Sorcerer's Story. Two solitary figures stood on the shore while the ship was being thrown around and swept onto the large, jagged rocks. Neither the howling wind nor the massive waves seemed to touch either of them, as they both watched the drama unfold intently. The tall one, standing fearlessly and strong, was a man holding a strange staff, with a luminescent crystal on the top. The small form next to him was almost completely hidden by the man's bold red flowing robe. Her long hair dancing about in the wind was the only indication there was another person standing there at all. After the ear-shattering crash of the ship splitting in two, covered the doleful screams of its passengers. Her pale face turned towards the man.
If with your art, my dearest father, you have caused these waters to roar, please stop it. Their cries broke my heart. Poor souls, they died. If I had the power, I would have sunk the sea into the earth before it swallowed that fine ship with all the good people she carried.
Miranda, my daughter, collect yourself. No one was harmed.
Miranda's beautiful hazel eyes brimmed with tears.
Oh, what a terrible day!
Her father smiled reassuringly.
Don't worry. I'm telling you, not a single person is harmed. Everything I've ever done has been for you, for my beautiful daughter, who is ignorant of her own and her father's true identity.
Miranda looked surprised.
It never occurred to me that there was more to know.
The man gently guided Miranda to a rock large enough to sit on, and turned his steady gaze on her youthful tear-stained face.
It's time I reveal the truth about our past. Now help me take off my sorcerer's cloak and lay my magic to rest. Wipe your eyes and calm down, Miranda. I've arranged this Tempest and the wrecking of that ship so carefully so that no one was harmed, not a single hair on their heads. Sit down and listen, because it's time you knew who your father is.
You have often started to tell me who I am, but stopped and left my questions about our past unanswered, saying it was not yet the time.
Can you remember a time before we came to this place?
Yes, but it seems far off. More like a dream than a definite memory. Didn't I have 4 or 5 women tending me?
After removing his cloak, and once Miranda had calmed down, he started his narration.
Indeed you did, and more, Miranda. 12 years ago, I, Prospero, was the Duke of Milan and a prince of power. You were my heir, a princess. You had all the luxuries befitting a lady of your rank.
Good heavens! What foul play did we suffer that made us leave Milan? Or was it a blessing?
Both, my dear. We were cast here by foul play, as you say. But it was also a blessing to have arrived on this island in the end. Now listen. I was famous for my dignity and my love of learning, and my state was the strongest in the land. So I entrusted its running to my brother, Antonio, the person I loved most in the world after yourself. And I still can't believe he could be so deceitful. Since I was so engrossed in my studies, I lost control of both my brother and the state. Are you listening?
Yes, my father.
When Antonio perfected the skill of granting suits and denying others, promoting some men and demoting others, he swayed my people to his will. I was so shut away from the world and trusted him so completely that I unintentionally aroused evil thoughts in my disloyal brother. Having the power and wealth to control the entire state made Antonio think he was the Duke. He believed his own lie, and his ambition grew. Do you hear what I'm saying, Miranda?
Miranda was dumbfounded.
Your story could cure deafness, father. Please go on.
He went to Alonso, the King of Naples, and told him I was incapable of executing my duties. Antonio was so hungry for power that he promised to give the king an annual tribute and be his subject. My brother and Milan both, a dukedom that had never bowed to anyone before, would submit to Naples if Alonso helped him get rid of me. Alonso, a long-established enemy of mine, agreed to my brother's evil plan. Together they formed an army, and on a fateful night at midnight, drove me and you, my only daughter, out of Milan.
Miranda was shocked.
Why didn't they kill us?
Good question. The answer is that they didn't dare, my dear, because my people loved me deeply. So they had to cover up their foul plan and not leave a mark on me. They took us out to sea and threw us in a boat with no sails, at the mercy of the roaring sea and the wailing winds. If it wasn't for your sweet smile, I wouldn't have found the strength to survive.
Miranda shook her head in dismay.
How were we saved?
Thanks to a kind lord's charity. His name was Gonzalo. He had left us with food, water, and clothes. He had also brought me some of my most precious books from my library. This is how I proved a worthy tutor to you after we arrived here.
Miranda felt deep gratitude.
Thank you for that, my father. I wish I could see Gonzalo one day so that I could thank him too. But I still don't understand why you created that storm and caused such a shipwreck.
A smile of contentment spread across Prospero's face.
By a most strange accident, luck has brought my enemies to this shore. This is my opportunity to settle the injustice done to me. Now, ask no more.
Prospero gently stroked Miranda's head with one hand, while he slowly picked up the staff he had left on the ground next to him. The crystal on the top seemed to shimmer as he continued speaking softly.
You feel like sleeping, my child. It's a pleasant sleepiness. Give in to it. You have no choice.
Miranda's eyelashes gracefully fanned her cheeks as she fell asleep on the rock next to her father. Prospero called for his servant, Ariel, who appeared before his master in a flash. Although his form was human-like, Ariel's pointed ears, glowing blue skin, and the strange aura of sparkle flickering and hovering around him gave him an unearthly air. He earnestly bowed to Prospero.
My most respectful greetings, O great master. I come to do whatever you please, whether it is to fly, to swim, to dive into the fire, to ride the clouds, whatever you wish. Put Ariel and all the spirits I command to the test.
Prospero was anxious to find out more about the wreck.
Have you carried out the Tempest precisely as I ordered?
Ariel beamed with pride.
To the smallest detail. I was the wind, the thunder, the lightning, and the rain. I appeared as flames, striking terror in their hearts.
Prospero nodded in approval.
Good spirit. Are they all safe, though?
Yes, master. Everyone is completely unharmed. I separated the passengers into groups and scattered them around the island just as you instructed. The ship is in the harbor, hidden in a cove, and the sailors are sleeping below the deck, all under a magic spell I cast on them.
Prospero smiled in satisfaction.
Good work, Ariel. But there is still more work to be done. It is now 2 o'clock. Time between now and 6 o'clock must be spent carefully.
My master, I beg you, please remember what good work I've done for you. I've never lied, never made a mistake or grumbled. So please, remember your promise to take 1 year off my sentence if today's tasks are carried out successfully.
Prospero frowned.
Before the work here is finished? No. Have you forgotten the torment I saved you from? The state you were in? The vicious old witch Sycorax? Then I'll have to remind you once a month. She imprisoned you in a tree and left you there for 12 whole years. Because you were too gentle a spirit to carry out her evil wishes. And then she died. You would have stayed there forever if I hadn't found you. The only human being on the island was the freckled boy she left behind, who could not help you, you ungrateful thing.
Disappointment cast its shadow over Ariel's face. With shoulders hunched, he lowered his eyes and nodded once.
Yes, Master. Only Caliban, her son, was here then.
That's right. Caliban, who also serves me now. So stop complaining or I will lock you up in a tree for another 12 years.
At this, Ariel instantly raised his head, and his almond-shaped eyes opened wide.
Please forgive me, Master. I'll be dutiful and do all you ask, without complaining.
Prospero regained his composure.
Do that. And in 2 days, you'll have your freedom. Now, make yourself invisible to everyone except me, and do as I've instructed you. I will call you when I need you. Go, and be careful.
Chapter 3. Masters and Slaves. Once Ariel had disguised himself as a water nymph and received his instructions, he left in haste to carry out his master's orders. Prospero then turned to his daughter's sleeping form and gently shook her shoulder.
Wake up, my dear. Wake up. Come on. It's time to go find Caliban, my slave who never has a kind word to say.
Miranda's eyes fluttered and blinked to clear her vision. When she was fully awake again, she got up and warily followed her father. She didn't like Caliban. In fact, she thought him evil. But as her father said, he was of use to them. He was the one who had been doing their chores for the 12 years they'd been on the island after all. When they reached the mouth of the cave where he lived, Prospero called out Caliban's name. There was shuffling and grumbling from inside the cave, but no one came out. Prospero's nostrils flared and his eyebrows pulled together as he took a fierce, deep breath and bellowed,
Come out, you tortoise! There's work for you to do.
The reek of him wafted out before his dark face appeared. Thick ebony hairs, crusted with dirt, sweat and leaves, covered almost his entire body, and his unkempt mane fell past his shoulders. With those looks and his hunched, primitive walk, one could easily mistake him for a wild gorilla, until they saw the rags and feathers he wore as clothes. But it was the hateful glint in his beady eyes that begged the question. Could an innocent animal cast such a look upon another?
May a southwest wind blow on you both and burn you all over. There's enough wood in your hut already. I must eat my dinner now. This island is mine, and you came and stole it from me. When you first came here, you treated me with kindness and love. You taught me the names for the sun and the moon. I loved you then, but your affection was just a trick so I would show you every inch of this place. And now I am a prisoner in this cave while you enjoy the rest of the island.
How dare you, you lying piece of filth! I treated you with human care and let you stay in my own humble dwelling until the day you attacked my daughter.
Miranda could no longer keep quiet.
Oh, you loathsome slave! I took pity on you. I worked hard to teach you how to speak and something new every hour. But your evil nature is so vile that a good person cannot stand to be near you. You deserve to be confined to this rocky hole.
Caliban sharply turned his gaze to her and hissed.
You taught me language, and all I can do with it is curse. Curse on you for teaching me your language.
At this, Prospero lost his temper.
Get out of here! Bring us wood, and be quick about it! If you neglect my orders, I will cause you such pain that wild animals will hear your howls and tremble in fear!
Caliban unwillingly lowered his head. He knew that Prospero was powerful and could easily punish him for being disobedient. He hurried away to collect wood, but still muttered curses under his breath. After the disgruntled slave had left, Ariel returned. He was playing soft and solemn music, and his colourful, sparkling aura was concealed to all but his master. Close on Ariel's heels, a young man with shoulder-length golden hair appeared. His eyes were as green as grass on a warm summer's day, and he wore fine clothes of white and gold. He was following the music, trying to locate its source.
Change into something rich and strange.
Prospero's eyes glinted with recognition when he saw the newcomer, for he was Prince Ferdinand, the only son to the King of Naples. The sorcerer's mouth curled into a half-smile as he spoke to his daughter.
Ding dong bell.
Raise your eyes, Miranda, and tell me what you see over there.
Miranda turned to the direction her father had pointed at, until her eyes fell upon Ferdinand.
What is it, father? A spirit? It has a splendid form, so it must be a spirit.
No, my child, this is no spirit. He eats and sleeps just like you or I. This young man was in the shipwreck, and now he wanders to find his companions.
When Ferdinand's eyes met with Miranda's, he froze. The most beautiful pair of eyes he had ever seen were gazing right back at him. As if drawn by a magnet, his feet led him over to her.
You must be the divine being this music is being played for. Please listen to my prayer and grant me with an answer. Do you live on this island? And if you do, how should I behave here? And most importantly, oh you wonderful creature, are you human or are you a goddess?
I'm not wonderful, sir, but I certainly am human.
She speaks my language! Good heavens! I am the highest ranking person who speaks this language. If only we were back in Naples where it is spoken, we could be together.
At this, Prospero took a step forward to make his presence known to the young prince.
What would the King of Naples do if he heard you say that?
Taken aback, Ferdinand blinked, and his handsome face fell.
He does hear me, and that gives me sorrow, sir. For I am now the King of Naples. My father, the previous king, died in a shipwreck. I saw it with my own eyes. They're all gone, all his lords, and the Duke of Milan too.
Prospero mumbled something about the real Duke of Milan, observing all the while the way the young couple were looking at one another. Ferdinand spoke gently.
Fair maiden, if your affections do not belong to another man, then I'll make you the Queen of Naples.
Miranda gasped as Prospero thought to himself,
They've fallen in love at first sight. Well done, Ariel. I'll set you free for this. But if those two are to appreciate the prize of their love, then I must make winning it a bit harder for them. Time to give them a challenge. Just a moment, sir. You're using a name you don't own. And you come on this island as a spy to steal it from me, for I'm its rightful owner.
Ferdinand was momentarily stunned, and Miranda could not believe her father's rude behavior.
No, my lord. Upon my honor as a man, I'm not.
Father, please look at him. Nothing evil could reside in such a temple. If a malevolent spirit had such a house, I'm sure all the good spirits would fight it off to live in it.
Prospero maintained a cold, hard expression.
Do not speak in his defense, daughter. He's a traitor. You, sir, come with me. I'll put you in chains.
No! As long as I am stronger than you, I will resist such entertainment, sir.
Ferdinand instantly pulled out his sword, but Prospero pointed the crystal of his staff at him, and an eerie green glow froze the young man in his place. Witnessing the scene, Miranda cried in despair.
Oh, Father, don't be so quick to judge him. He is gentle and brave.
What's that? Put away your sword, traitor. As you can see, I can disarm you with this staff and make your weapon drop. Let go of my robe, daughter.
Please, Father, have pity. I'll vouch for him.
Silence! One more word and I'll punish you. You, an advocate for an impostor? Hush! You think he's unique, because the only men you've met are him and Caliban. Foolish girl. For most people, this man is a Caliban, and compared to him, they are angels.
Miranda did not cease her pleading.
Then, my love is humble, because I don't want to meet another man. Father, please set him free.
Prospero released Ferdinand from the magic spell and ordered him to follow. The young man sheathed his sword and followed obediently, with his eyes glued on Miranda.
I couldn't move. My strength was gone as if in a dream. My father's loss, the loss of all my friends, the weakness I feel, my being taken prisoner by this man. All this would be easier to bear if I could lay my eyes on this maiden even once a day. Let liberty rule the rest of the earth. This prison right here is all the space I need.
Prospero's eyes glimmered with pleasure when he heard the prince's utterance, and he discreetly beckoned Ariel to approach him, as Miranda tried to comfort Ferdinand.
It's working! Well done, Ariel. Now listen to what else you must do for me. And when my plan is completed, you'll be as free as a bird. But you must do exactly as I say.
Ariel eagerly nodded when he received his instructions.
Down to the last detail, Master.
Chapter 4. The King's Brother. On a different part of the island, in a grove of trees so thick that only a few rays of sun could find their way through the branches, a group of noblemen had paused to rest their feet. The youngest looked around for water and anything edible growing in the forest. The rest had gathered around the imposing dark-haired man wearing the crown, King Alonso of Naples. After the presumed death of his only son in the shipwreck, his stern look had been transformed into one of overwhelming sadness, and his arctic blue eyes had become heavy with sorrow. Seeing his liege so inconsolable, Gonzalo tried his best to comfort him.
Please, sir, I beg you, cheer up. You still have cause for joy, as we all do. Our escape far outweighs our loss. Our sad ordeal is quite common. Every day, some sailor's wife, the owners of some merchant ship, as well as the merchant who hired the ship, all experience the same reason for grief that we have had. But the miracle, I mean our preservation, only happens to a few people out of millions. So, good sir, carefully weigh our grief against our solace.
The king rubbed his temple and then rested his head on the palm of his hand, with his eyes closed.
Say no more, please.
A few feet from the scene, Sebastian and Antonio were watching with sardonic smirks on their faces.
My brother receives comfort like cold porridge.
But that charity worker over there won't stop trying to make him feel better.
Both nobles, snorting and sneering, started exchanging nasty comments about both Alonso's grief and Gonzalo's efforts to alleviate it. Undaunted, the old nobleman would not pay any attention to their malicious chatter and tried various strategies to lighten the king's mood.
Look at what a wonderful place we are in, sire. How lush and healthy the grass is. And the most incredible thing of all, look at our clothes. They were drenched in seawater, but now they're as clean and fresh as they were when we wore them at your daughter's wedding.
However, nothing could ease the king's distress.
You keep cramming words into my ears that turn my stomach. I wish I'd never married my Claribel in Tunis. This journey has cost me both my son and my daughter, who now lives so far from Italy that I'll never see her again. Oh, my dear son and heir of Naples and Milan, what peculiar fish has made a meal of you?
While the rest of the king's company also did their best to relieve his sorrow, offering hopeful comments about the prince's rescue, his own brother was intent on rubbing salt in his wound.
You can thank yourself for this great loss, sir. We begged you to change your mind about this marriage, which your daughter only agreed to out of obedience. I'm afraid we've lost your son forever now, and this shipwreck has made more widows in both Milan and Naples than the men we bring back. This is all your fault.
Alonso moaned, rubbing his hand over his heart, and Gonzalo frowned at Sebastian.
My Lord Sebastian, the truth you speak lacks gentleness and timing. You're irritating the wound when you should be dressing it with a bandage.
With a gentle voice, he then turned to Alonso.
My liege, it's terrible for us all when you are miserable.
Ignoring Sebastian and Antonio's simultaneous snorts, the old man decided to try a new approach to uplift Alonso's grim spirit.
If I could make a colony on this island, my lord.
Antonio's sinister eyes turned to Sebastian's, and they both sniggered in perfect unison. Gonzalo was unperturbed.
And if I were king of it?
Suppressed laughter and coughing interrupted the old lord's reverie. Raising an eyebrow, he went on.
Do you know what I'd do? I would do everything differently. I wouldn't permit any trade or officials. There would be no sophisticated learning, no rich, no poor, no servants. There would be no contracts, birthrights, divided or cultivated land, no ownership, no use of metal, corn, wine or oil, no occupation. All men would be at leisure, as would the women, but they'd be innocent and pure. There'd be no sovereign rule on this island.
Sebastian shook with laughter.
And yet he wants to be king on this island, Antonio.
At the end of his rule, he's forgotten how he started it.
Gonzalo, still undisturbed by Antonio's and Sebastian's buzzing, carried on.
Everything would be produced by nature, sweat or labor. I would not allow treason, felony or weapons. Nature would provide all the food my innocent people would need in abundance. I would govern so perfectly that my country's glory would outlast that of the Golden Age.
While the two discourteous nobles threw more sarcastic comments about Gonzalo, Ariel arrived. He was still invisible and playing a solemn tune on his flute. One by one, the men's eyes drooped and their shoulders hunched as the soothing musical notes wafted to their ears, until everyone, except Sebastian and Antonio, leaned on the surface closest to them and fell asleep. Ariel smiled in satisfaction and left silently.
What strange drowsiness came over them, Antonio? Why aren't we sleepy?
I don't know. They all fell asleep together, as if they were hit by lightning. Which makes me think, what might happen, worthy Sebastian, if... No, I shouldn't speak. And yet, I see in your face what you ought to be. Opportunity is knocking on your door, and in my mind's eye, I can see a crown on your head.
Sebastian's brow furrowed.
Are you dreaming? What you're saying sounds as if you're talking in your sleep.
Good Sebastian, I am wide awake, and quite serious, as you should be too. For if you hear me out, you can become 3 times the man you are now.
Seeing that he now had Sebastian's full attention, Antonio unveiled the plan forming in his head.
The king's son can't be alive. It is impossible that he survived. Do you agree?
Sebastian nodded.
Yes. I have no doubt that he drowned.
So, now that the king's daughter is Queen of Tunis, who is next in line to inherit the kingdom of Naples?
Sebastian wrinkled his nose and forehead, even more confused.
What are you talking about? My niece might be Queen of Tunis, but she is also heir of Naples.
She is too far away to come back to Naples. Let her stay there and take advantage of the chance you've been given. If these men here were dead instead of sleeping, you could rule Naples much better than your brother. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sebastian's eyes widened and he somberly nodded. His silent consent encouraged Antonio to go on.
Take a look at me. By taking the throne for my brother Prospero, servants are no longer my equals. Now they work for me. This is the moment for you to do the same.
And what about your conscience?
Antonio snorted and continued matter-of-factly.
Yes. Where exactly is that? I have no awareness of a conscience in any part of me. Look at your brother sleeping. He'd be no better than the earth he is lying on if he were dead. And my sword can easily fix that, while your sword can take care of that old piece of flesh over there, Sir Prudence. With Gonzalo out of the way, the rest of the men will do whatever we say.
A calculating glint passed over Sebastian's eyes as he gently wrapped his palm around the hilt of his sword.
I'll get Naples, like you got Milan. Draw your sword. One stroke with it will free you from the tribute you pay Alonso now. And as the new king, I will love you forever.
Let's do it together. I'll strike Alonso at the same time you strike Gonzalo.
The two conspirators pulled out their swords and crept towards their blissfully sleeping victims. But before they could raise their weapons, Ariel appeared next to Gonzalo in a flash. Prospero had foreseen the danger and sent him to warn his old friend. The loyal spirit gently kneeled down and sang a song of warning in the old man's ear, which broke the sleeping spell.
While you hear the snoring lie, open-eyed conspiracy, his opportunity takes. If of life you have a care, shake of slumber and beware. Awake, awake.
Gonzalo opened his eyes and let out a scream when he saw the two accomplices with their weapons raised.
Save the king!
Alonso woke up, startled.
Hey! What's happening? What's this? Wake up! Why have you two drawn your swords?
Sebastian thought on his feet.
While we stood here guarding you, my lord, we heard a deep roar that sounded like, bulls or lions. Did it not wake you? It sounded terrible.
Antonio hastily nodded.
It was so terrible that it could scare a monster. I'm sure it was a whole herd of lions.
Alonso frowned in disbelief.
I heard nothing. Did you, Gonzalo?
Gonzalo thought.
To be honest, sir, I did hear a humming, a strange one, which woke me up. As I opened my eyes, I saw these two with their weapons drawn. But there was a noise, that's true. We'd better be careful or move from here. Let's draw our weapons too.
Alonso nodded firmly once and rose to his feet.
Let's leave this place and go search for my poor son.
Gonzalo, who was genuinely concerned about the young prince, nodded in agreement.
I hope Lord Ferdinand is safe from these beasts. Because he is, I'm certain, somewhere on this island.
Neither Sebastian nor Antonio appeared to share the same conviction, but they had no choice except to follow. The rest of the men also drew their swords and began to make their way through the trees. Ariel popped his head out from behind a tree.
My Lord Prospero will know what I have done. So go on safely, King, and look for your son.
Chapter 5. A New Master. On another part of the island, Caliban had just finished chopping wood and was carrying it back towards Prospero's hut, muttering to himself. As he was crossing a green clearing in the forest, he heard a loud crash of thunder from the sky above him. He was instantly aware that Prospero's magic was at work again.
May all the infections that the sun sucks up from the marshes and the swamps fall on Prospero and make him, all of him, inch by inch, a walking disease. His spirits can hear my curses, but I can't hold back. They won't harm me or torture me unless he tells them to anyway. But he does set them on me for every little thing, no matter how small. They appear as animals, apes, hedgehogs, snakes, and they torture me until I'm overcome with madness.
At this, a strange creature entered the clearing, hustling and bustling. He was wearing outrageously coloured clothes and a three-pointed cap with bells at the ends, which created a terrible racket as the creature moved, obviously in a pressing hurry. Caliban quickly fell onto the ground and covered himself with his ragged cloak, hoping it would offer enough camouflage and protection. He was sure the creature was another one of Prospero's spirits, sent to torture him for being late in delivering the firewood. At that moment, thunder rumbled again, and something odd followed. The creature spoke.
I don't know where to hide my head. There's neither bush nor shrub here, and I can hear another storm brewing. That black cloud over there, and this huge one over here, seems ready to pour their contents down in torrents.
The creature kept looking around until it noticed Caliban and bent down, peering at him curiously.
What have we got here? A man or a fish? Dead or alive? Must be a fish because it smells like one. A very old and stale fish. If I was in England now, I could show this monster around and make money. Any strange beast can make a man prosper over there. They won't give a penny to a limping beggar, but they'll pay 10 cents to look at any odd dead creature.
The strange man reached out a hand to touch Caliban, who remained immobile.
Oh, he's warm. I guess I was wrong. He's not a fish. He must be a native of this island who got struck by lightning.
Thunder grumbled again, and the man stood, looking around for shelter. Realizing that Caliban's cloak was his only option, he raised it and crawled underneath. He covered himself as best he could, but his feet were left sticking out. Then he glanced at Caliban and shook his head.
Misery makes strange bedfellows.
Caliban, terrified, was trying to stay as still as a mouse, when another man stumbled into the clearing. Short, with a round belly and inflated cheeks, he was carrying a bottle and squawking something that vaguely resembled a song.
Sneer at 'em, jeer at 'em, jeer at 'em, sneer at 'em.
Caliban panicked, thinking that one too was a spirit.
Please, don't hurt me! Oh!
The man turned unsteadily and looked around, trying to locate the voice that spoke. When he saw the cloak-covered mass with the 4 legs and Caliban's face sticking out at opposite ends, he blinked.
What's the matter? Is this a trick? One face, 4 legs? A savage with 4 legs? I've not escaped drowning to be afraid of your 4 legs, you...
Caliban hid his face behind his trembling hands and cried out in fear.
Oh! The spirit is tormenting me! Oh!
The man rubbed his jaw in thought.
This must be a native monster of this island. It seems to me he's in pain of some sort. How on earth does he speak our language? If I can revive him and keep him tame, I could make a lot of money out of him in Naples.
Don't hurt me, please. I'll bring the wood faster from now on.
The man could not understand Caliban's mumbling and was certain the monster before him was having a fit. He raised the bottle he was carrying and used a soothing voice to make Caliban drink some wine.
Come on, open up! This will stop you shaking and help you see who your friend is.
Upon hearing this, the man taking shelter under Caliban's cloak jumped in surprise and then laughed.
I know that voice. It should be... But no, it can't be. He drowned. Stefano.
The short man, Stefano, hiccuped and squinted at the cloak.
4 legs and 2 voices? A most delightful monster. One voice is well spoken and the other vile. The wine in my bottle will restore him.
Stefano pushed some more wine down Caliban's throat, but stopped when the other man spoke again.
Stefano! If you are Stefano, touch me and speak to me. It's me, Triculo, your friend.
Stefano squinted at the shifting bulge under the cloak.
If you are Trinculo, come out.
Untangling himself from the filthy rag, Trinculo stood up. Stefano could not believe his eyes.
You are Trinculo! What are you doing lying next to this monster?
Trinculo explained.
I thought he was struck by lightning. I hid under his cloak to protect myself from the storm. But I thought you drowned, Stefano. Are you really alive? Oh, both of us survived.
Stefano's face paled as his friend held him tight by the forearms and danced him round with glee.
Please stop. My stomach's getting upset. How did you survive? How did you get here? I myself floated ashore on a barrel of wine that was thrown overboard.
The two friends talked about their shared experience of the shipwreck and how they had survived, while Caliban drank more wine greedily and watched them in awe. As the warming days of alcohol spread through his body, a plan started to form in his head.
You must be a god because your wine is not of this world. I'll swear by this bottle to be your true subject.
Stefano chuckled and grabbed the bottle to give his friend a drink too. Trinculo drank deeply and started recounting how he swam ashore when they were shipwrecked. As the bottle passed around between the three of them, Caliban grew more and more certain that Stefano had indeed descended from heaven. Trinculo shook his head in disbelief.
What a poor naive monster. He thinks Stefano is a god. I can't believe I was afraid of him.
Caliban started trying to persuade Stefano to be his master.
I'll show you every inch of the island. I'll show you all the best springs. I'll pick up berries and I'll fish for you. I'll get you wood. I beg you, sir, please be my master.
While at first Stefano had chuckled and jeered at Caliban's pleas, the thought of him, a mere butler, being tended to like a lord, grew increasingly appealing. So he agreed.
Lead the way then, without talking any further.
Then he turned to Trinculo and spoke with as much distinction and poise as he could muster.
Trinculo, my friend, since the king and everyone else have drowned, this place belongs to us. Here, carry my bottle. We'll soon refill it from the barrel I travelled on. I've hidden it in a cave.
I'll make no more dams for fish, nor fetch his kindling at his requiring, nor scrape his plates, nor wash his dish. Ban, ban, Caliban has a new master, get a new man.
Singing a drunken farewell to his old master, Caliban led them off to see the wonders of the island. His new master followed with Trinculo, both friends swaying and stumbling on the rocky terrain.
Lead the way, my splendid monster! Lead the way!
Chapter 6. A Perfect Match. Sweat rolled down Ferdinand's brow as he carried another large log from the forest to Prospero's hut. Raising his eyes, he looked at Miranda's radiant face. She'd been standing like a guardian angel outside the door, looking over him while he executed his tedious task. Her concerned eyes would not leave him as he stacked the endless pile of logs against the wall. Although he had never carried out such a hard and low-born chore before, his labour was made pleasurable by the thought of doing it for this gentle creature. While her bad-tempered father would bark harsh orders at him, she would watch him work like a slave and weep. Just thinking of her made his struggle easier and spurred him on to work harder. As he balanced the heavy log onto the pile, Miranda approached him, her long brown hair bouncing gracefully with every step.
Please don't work so hard. I wish the lightning had struck these infernal logs that you have to pile up. My father is busy studying, so you can rest for a while. Please put the logs down.
Ferdinand glanced at Prospero, sitting on the gnarled roots of an ancient olive tree further away, and then shook his head and smiled.
Oh, my dear mistress, I can't stop yet. There's still a lot to do. It will be sunset before I finish my task.
Please sit down and let me help you. I'll carry your logs for a while.
Ferdinand was appalled.
No, precious lady. I would rather break my back carrying wood than let you do such dishonourable work while I sit lazily by.
Prospero mumbled over the pages of the book on his lap. He'd been discreetly observing the young couple, listening to everything they said.
You poor thing. You're infected with love. Your ways with him show it clearly.
Ferdinand seized the opportunity to find out more about Miranda.
O noble mistress, if only so I might use it in my prayers, please tell me, what is your name?
Miranda. Oh, my father, I've disobeyed your orders by saying that.
Miranda glanced at her father and blushed in shame. Ferdinand could not bear to see her so upset.
Admired Miranda, for that is what your name means. I have seen several women in my life, but none so unblemished by any imperfections. You, so perfect and without equal, have been created from every creature's best qualities.
Miranda, heartened by Ferdinand's impassioned praise and lacking the finesse of experience, could not contain her thoughts or her feelings.
I don't remember any other woman's face except the one I see in my mirror. Nor have I seen more of the creatures that I may call men, except yourself and my dear father. I don't know what other people look like, yet I swear this upon my most precious jewel, my virtue. I wouldn't wish any other companion in the world but you. Nor can I imagine liking anyone else as much as you. But listen to me babbling. I say too much, and I forget my father's instructions.
A smile spread across Ferdinand's face.
I am a prince, Miranda. In fact, I am probably a king now, although I hope not. So normally, I wouldn't allow myself to be treated as a slave. But the moment I saw you, My heart flew to your service, and there it will stay. I am your slave, and for your sake I have become this patient logman.
Miranda looked at him with hope in her eyes.
Do you love me then?
I swear by the heaven and the earth that I, more than anything in the world, do love, prize, and honor you.
Miranda's beautiful hazel eyes filled with tears of joy, while Prospero smiled from his studying place.
A happy meeting of two rare souls. May their union be blessed.
Ferdinand handed his handkerchief to Miranda so she could wipe her tears of joy. Taking in a deep breath, she looked up.
The more I try to hide my feelings, the more they inflate, and I will burst. Oh, I cannot be cunning. Let me be plain and honest. I will be your wife if you will marry me. If you don't want me as a companion, then I'll be your servant, whether you want me to or not.
Ferdinand smiled joyfully.
No, you will be my wife, dearest, and I will be your servant forever. I will marry you with a heart as welcoming as a slave's is of freedom. Here's my hand. Take it.
And here's my hand as well as my heart.
They both held hands tightly and gazed lovingly into each other's eyes for a few moments. Then they separated and went about their duties with a bounce in their step, promising to meet again in half an hour. Prospero raised his eyes from the pages of his book and sighed.
I can't be as glad as they, who are surprised by it all are, but nothing could rejoice me more. Now, I need to get back to my book, since I have much to do before supper time.
Chapter 7. Caliban's Plan. The earth shivered, and the birds and animals of the forest fled to safety, as the wobbly, heavy-footed, and deeply intoxicated miscreants slowly made their way around the island's natural treasures. Caliban was determined to show his new master the springs with the freshest water and the bushes with the sweetest berries. But the task was becoming impossible with every gulp of wine Stefano gave him to drink.
My, this wine is sweet. Servant monster, drink to my reign.
Trinculo snorted.
Servant monster, the foolishness of this island. There are only 5 people on this island, and we're 3 of them. If the other 2 are as addle-brained as we are, this kingdom's in trouble.
Stefano, completely taken with the idea of his newly found monarchy, was focused on assigning posts to his subjects.
My man-monster has drowned his tongue in wine and cannot speak. Speak, monster! Will you be my lieutenant or my flag-bearer?
Flag-bearer? He cannot stand up, let alone carry a flag.
Caliban frowned, and his glazed eyes tried to focus on Stefano.
I'll serve and honour you, sir, but I won't serve him. He's not noble, not like you are.
Trinculo was affronted.
You lie, you ignorant monster! I am too! Did you not see how much wine I've had today? Would a commoner have that much to drink? Do you lie because you're half a fish and half a monster?
Caliban crawled to his master's feet.
Look how he mocks me. Will you let him, my lord?
Trinculo, watch your tongue. If you rise up against me, I'll hang you from the nearest tree. This poor monster's my subject. I won't have you insulting him.
Caliban kissed his new lord's feet in gratitude and looked up.
Thank you, my noble lord. Will you please listen to my request again?
Indeed I will. Kneel and repeat it. I'll stand, and so will Trinculo.
At that moment, Ariel entered, wearing Prospero's cloak of invisibility once more, and listened in as Caliban started spinning his tale.
As I told you before, I'm a subject of a sorcerer who is a tyrant. He cheated me out of this island with his cunning.
At this, Ariel snarled.
You're lying.
Caliban thought it was Trinculo who had spoken, and responded with a glare.
You're lying, you fool of a monkey, you! I wish my valiant master would destroy you! I'm not lying!
Stefano was losing his patience.
Trinculo! If you bother him again while he's telling his story, I swear I'll knock some of your teeth out with my own hands!
Trinculo was offended.
I didn't say anything!
Forbidding Trinculo from speaking any further, Stefano asked Caliban to go on. Caliban's eyes shone with hatred.
I was saying that he got this island by sorcery. He stole it from me. Will your greatness take revenge on him for that? You're fearless, and I'm just a cowardly thing. That way, you'll be lord of the island, and I'll serve you.
A calculating glint flashed in Stefano's eyes.
Now, how would I do that? Can you take me to this sorcerer?
A smile of satisfaction spread across Caliban's face.
Yes, yes, my lord. I'll take you to him when he's asleep. Then you can put an end to him.
Ariel was livid.
You're lying! You can't do that!
Caliban, convinced that the voice was Trinculo's, begged Stefano to punish him. Stefano turned to his old friend and held his fist up fiercely.
Trinculo! Beware! Say one more word and I swear by this hand I'll beat you black and blue!
Trinculo was astounded.
But I didn't say anything!
Stefano's eyes shot from Trinculo to Caliban.
Didn't you just say he lied?
Before Trinculo could reply, Ariel jumped in again.
You're lying.
Am I? Take this then.
Stefano's palm flew through the air and landed on Trinculo's face with a loud clap.
Now tell me I'm lying again if you dare.
Trinculo rubbed his cheek in shock.
I never said you were lying. Are you out of your mind? Have you lost your hearing too? A curse on you! A plague on you both!
Stefano pushed Trinculo away, and Caliban continued.
Like I said, Prospero usually sleeps in the afternoon. That's the best time to kill him. But first, get his books. Without them, he's as much a fool as I am, without a single spirit to command. They all hate him, just as I do. Remember to burn just his magic books, not his furniture. He's got fine things. He was saving them to furnish his house with when he got one. But above all, think about the beauty of his daughter. He himself says she's without equal. I've never seen any other women except for my mother and her, but Miranda is far more beautiful than Sycorax ever was. She'll be an asset to you, and she'll give you fine children.
Stefano's rounded face lit up with excitement.
Monster! I will kill Prospero. His daughter and I will be king and queen, and you and Trinculo will be viceroys. What do you think, Trinculo? You'll no longer be a clown in my court.
Trinculo sneered.
Excellent.
Stefano looked at his companion apologetically.
Give me your hand. I'm sorry I hit you, but be nice from now on, will you?
After shaking hands, the three scoundrels agreed to attack Prospero in half an hour's time. Ariel decided to inform his master right away. but not before he struck terror into them. On a pipe and drum, he played the tune that Stefano had taught Caliban earlier. Upon hearing the music, Stefano's hair stood on end.
What is this?
Trinculo looked around.
It's the tune of our song, played by someone invisible.
Trinculo glued himself to Stefano's back and started praying. Stefano, turning around frantically in all directions, spoke up.
If you're a man, show yourself. Otherwise, go.
Caliban, seeing Stefano's uneasiness, quickly tried to soothe him.
Don't be afraid. This island is full of harmless noises, sounds, and sweet songs. They don't hurt you. They just make you feel good. Sometimes the sound of 1,000 vibrating instruments will buzz in my ears. And sometimes I hear voices that, even if I've just woken up after a long sleep, make me sleep again. And in my dreams, I see clouds opening and raining such riches onto my lap that when I wake up, I cry because I want to dream again.
Stefano thought about it and smiled. He was thrilled at the idea of being the king of an island where he could listen to music for free whenever he liked. Caliban could see him daydreaming and decided to remind him of their scheme.
Yes, this will be a great kingdom to live in, as soon as Prospero is destroyed.
I remember the plan, monster. Lead on. We'll follow. I wish I could see this drummer. He's really good.
Trinculo quickly scurried after Stefano as he walked away, following Caliban.
Wait for me!
Chapter 8. The Banquet. Searching high and low, the king's party traipsed all over the island, trying to find the lost prince. Fatigue and the weight of his years lay heavily on Gonzalo, who stumbled to a rock and collapsed. Weary-eyed, he turned to his king apologetically.
Forgive me, sire, but I can't walk any further. My old bones ache. With your permission, I need to rest.
Alonso felt for the elderly nobleman.
I cannot blame you, dear Gonzalo. I'm so tired myself that I'm losing faith. Sit down and rest. My son has drowned. I must accept that he is gone and let him go.
Antonio drew Sebastian aside and whispered,
I'm glad he's lost hope. Don't give up on our plan because of one failure, Sebastian. We must do it tonight. Now that everyone is so exhausted, they will not be alert.
Agreed. Tonight. Say no more for now, Antonio.
While the two conspirators quietly plotted, a strange and solemn melody filled the air. The men turned in the direction the music was coming from and froze. A troop of ethereal creatures that looked outwardly like women gracefully danced towards them, their feet lightly touching the ground like the fluttering wings of a butterfly. Mystified by their celestial appearance, the men did not notice that these magical beings were carrying several platters of elaborate dishes. A lavish banquet, worthy of the noblest kings and queens, until the mouth-watering aroma tickled their noses. The spirits gently placed a table before Alonso and his men and laid it with the food. Smiling and swaying delicately around the table, They beckoned everyone to come and eat, and then swiftly left. The men stared at the food, mouths agape.
We've brought you a feast.
The sweet music and the familiar smells of the feast had calmed them from their initial shock. Even Sebastian and Antonio's sinister plan had escaped their minds for a while. As if waking up from a dream, the men blinked and looked at one another. Sebastian spoke first.
Good gracious! I'll believe in unicorns after that. I'll even believe in the stories that say the phoenix exists and it's thrown as a tree in Arabia.
Prospero, who'd been hiding in the shadows and conducting the scene from a distance, snickered at the men's astounded faces. Antonio nodded.
I think I'll believe both. And anything else that's incredible, too.
Gonzalo was also astonished.
If I were to recount these events in Naples, would they believe me, I wonder? That I saw islanders who, despite their otherworldly forms, were gentler and kinder than many humans. Indeed, than almost any human.
Gonzalo's words made Prospero smile fondly as he muttered under his breath.
How right you are, my honest friend. Because some of your present companions are worse than monsters.
Alonso, who had also been spellbound by the spirit's appearance, turned his gaze to Gonzalo and nodded.
Such shapes, such gestures, such sounds. Even though they did not speak, their silent discourse was excellent.
Prospero's eyes glinted.
Don't praise the host till the meal is over. You may soon find the spirit's message less excellent.
Despite their hunger, the men examined the laid-out table doubtfully. Everyone hesitated to eat anything, so Alonso took a step forward.
I'll take the risk. I'll eat the food even though it might be my last meal. The best part of my life is past anyway. Brother, Antonio, please join me.
They all approached the table, but before they could taste any of the delicacies, a shuddering crack of thunder and violent bolts of lightning whipped through the sky. A monstrous bird-like creature appeared screeching over the men, who froze in place at the sight. It was a harpy, a creature with enormous wings, the face and arms of a woman, but with the legs and claws of a bird. As it flapped its impressive wings over the table, the feast vanished altogether. Then it turned its eerie, almond-shaped eyes at Alonso, Antonio, and Sebastian. Ariel's roaring voice rang out.
The three of you are sinners! Destiny commanded the sea to belt you up on this uninhabited island because you don't deserve to live!
At this, Antonio and Sebastian, alert to the danger, drew their swords and tried to attack the hovering feathered monster. However, by some curious magic, their weapons were too heavy to lift. The swords fell to the ground, and the creature cackled grotesquely as the men tried to pick them up.
You fools! My fellows and I are ministers of fate. Your swords are ineffective against us. My mission is to remind you that you three uprooted noble Prospero and hurled him and his innocent child into the sea. Your punishment for this atrocious crime was delayed, but not forgotten. The seas and all the creatures of the earth have been commanded to plague your peace. You, Alonso, have lost your son, and you will slowly be destroyed in a way far more agonizing than death. Nothing but misery awaits the three of you until you truly repent in your hearts for what you've done and change your evil ways for the rest of your lives!
With this warning and a crash of thunder, Ariel, in his harpy form, disappeared from their view, and the spirits that had brought the banquet jumped out from behind the greenery. Their previously friendly faces were now distorted with mocking sneers, and they took away the empty table, leaving the men aghast. From his hiding place, Prospero smiled in satisfaction and thought to himself,
You've played the role beautifully, my Ariel. It was graceful, but intense. All my lower-level spirits have brought their parts to life with special care and attention. My magical powers are at their peak, and my enemies are all tied in knots with confusion. I'm in control now. Now for Ferdinand and Miranda.
On the ground below, the men were silent. Alonso stood devastated, staring into space, and broke into speech when he felt Gonzalo's compassionate presence next to him.
Oh, it is dreadful, just dreadful. The clouds talked, the winds sang, and the thunder rumbled Prospero's name, all shouting out my crime. That is why my son is sleeping now at the bottom of the sea. I look for him on the seabed, go deeper underwater than ever explored, and there I will lie with him, buried in the mud.
At that, Alonso tore towards the beach, and Sebastian drew his sword.
Let me fight them, one by one, and I'll defeat all those evil spirits.
He charged across the forest, and Antonio followed right behind him, determined to join the battle. Gonzalo jolted the rest of the men to action.
They've all gone mad with despair. Guilt, like a slow-working poison, has begun to eat away at their spirits. I beg you, those of you with supple joints, follow them quickly. Stop them from doing whatever this insanity is pushing them to do.
Chapter 9. Engagements. The dark, heavy clouds were slowly departing, and cheerful sunbeams fell upon the hut, lifting the spirits of the young couple as Prospero talked to them. He placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder and turned to Ferdinand.
If I have been cruel to you, I am about to make amends, because I am giving you a third of my life, that for which I live, my daughter, Miranda. I surrender her to your hands as your wife. All the harassments you have suffered were only tests of your love, which you have passed admirably. So, here is my most precious gift to you. You will soon find that she surpasses any praise I might give of her.
Ferdinand looked at Miranda's blushing face and nodded.
I believe you, my lord.
Prospero softly put his daughter's dainty hand into the prince's and covered both hands with his own, sealing them into a sacred bond.
Then take my present, which you have worthily earned, my daughter. Please honor and respect her.
Ferdinand bowed his head.
I promise. As I hope for peace, beautiful children, and a long life, And with the same fervent love I feel now, I will not allow the honor and respect I already feel for my beautiful wife to melt away.
Prospero smiled with satisfaction.
Well said. Now sit and talk to your bride-to-be.
Prospero turned away while the love-stricken couple gazed into one another's eyes and called out softly,
Ariel, come.
Without delay, his most hard-working assistant appeared and bowed low before him.
My delicate Ariel, you and the lesser spirits performed the last task I assigned very well. Now, there is another trick I must ask you to perform. Go bring all the spirits here. Tell them to hurry. I must present this young couple with a light show of my magic. We'll stage a masque to celebrate their engagement.
Prospero whispered his instructions into Ariel's ear, who nodded and vanished. Then he sat down next to his newly engaged daughter and clapped his hands. A magical spirit with wings like gold satin shimmered into view. She was holding a winged staff and wearing a long dress, which vibrated with all the colors of a rainbow. Bowing before her audience, she spoke with a clear, enchanting voice.
I am Iris, the goddess of rainbows and messenger of the gods. Queen Juno, our goddess of marriage and childbirth, has sent me to call upon you, Ceres, goddess of the fields and the earth. Leave your rich farms, the hills and the groves, and come.
A tiny sparkle of light exploded in the air, and a second spirit appeared, holding a torch. She was swathed in layers of browns, oranges, and yellows, and her tender voice was matched by the affectionate look in her eyes.
Greetings, Rainbow Messenger. Why has your Queen Juno called for me?
To celebrate a marriage of true love, and to give our gift to the blessed lovers.
Our great Queen Juno is coming. I can hear her.
Great wings beat in the air, and a third spirit, wearing a goatskin cloak, descended from the sky along with a magnificent peacock. She landed on a rock, and the peacock perched at her feet, opening its vibrant tail feathers proudly into a large fan. Her commanding voice was even more arresting than the severe beauty of her face and her statuesque appearance.
Ceres, my sister, come, help me bless this couple so they may become prosperous and have many children.
Ceres joined Juno as she started singing a beautiful song to Miranda and Ferdinand, wishing them everything their hearts could desire for their marriage.
Honor, riches, marriage, blessing, long, riches, marriage, blessing. I'll rejoice, be always with you. Juno sings her blessings on you.
The Queen of the Gods wished them honor, riches, children, a long life, and never-ending joy, while the goddess of the fields and the earth continued the song, wishing them natural prosperity, rich harvests, and wealth.
Scarcity and need shall shun you. Ceres' blessings always on you.
Ferdinand, completely in awe of the performance, turned to Prospero.
Let me live here forever. Such a wonderful father-in-law and wife make this place paradise.
The masque continued, with Juno whispering something into Iris's ear, who left promptly and returned with a group of nymphs. At Iris's command, they started to dance elegantly to the merry melody of flutes. After a while, Iris clapped her hands, and another group of spirits, who were dressed as farmers, joined the dance. As the happy couple watched the performance mesmerized, Prospero suddenly remembered that the time had nearly come for Caliban to attempt the attack on his life. He quickly jumped up and shouted out,
"Well done! Leave now!"
At Prospero's abrupt command, all the spirits looked at one another in confusion, but they quickly stopped their dancing and left with shoulders slumped. The young prince, puzzled, turned to Miranda.
This is strange. Your father seems to be in turmoil all of a sudden.
Miranda nodded worriedly.
I've never seen him so angry and upset.
Prospero turned to Ferdinand when he sensed his future son-in-law's concern.
You look troubled. Cheer up, my son. Our festivities are simply over. Those actors were all spirits, and they vanished into thin air. Just like this whole spectacle has dissolved, leaving not a wisp of cloud behind it. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded off with a sleep. Please forgive me. My old brain is troubled. If you like, you can retire into my hut and rest. I'll go for a walk to calm my restless mind.
Prospero walked away and called Ariel with a thought. His trusted servant appeared, walking next to him.
We must prepare to meet with Caliban. Tell me again, where did you leave those knaves?
Ariel smiled proudly while he led his master to the roads.
I charmed them with the beat of my drum and let them into the smelly pond behind your hut. They're so drunk that even though they're covered with the stinking water up to their chins, they're complaining the filth is making their feet reek, my lord.
Well done, my bird. Stay invisible and go bring cheap fancy clothes. Hang them on that clothesline. We'll use them to entice and catch these thieves.
Prospero hid to watch the scene from a distance. Ariel had just laid out the bait when the three drunkards stumbled into the clearing. At the sight of the gaudy clothes, Trinculo and Stefano squealed with delight. Caliban winced and whispered,
"Please be quiet. We're near his hut now."
But the other two were far too concerned with changing their foul-smelling clothes to pay any attention to him, no matter how hard he tried to get them back on track with their evil plan. Animatedly, Stefano and Trinculo started taking different garments off the line and holding them up. Exclamations of delight escaped their mouths while they examined the texture and colour of the fabrics.
Oh, King Stefano, these clothes look like they were made for you.
A flash of anger spread through Stefano's face when he saw the coat Trinculo was trying on.
Take that off, Trinculo! That's for me!
Trinculo quickly took it off and offered it to his friend.
You can have it, my lord.
Caliban did not share the other two's excitement. In fact, the shift of their attention irritated him.
You fool! Leave those worthless clothes and carry out the murder first. If we don't kill him before he wakes up, we will suffer!
But Stefano and Trinculo were too ecstatic to listen to Caliban. They tried on more clothes, exchanging jokes and laughing merrily. When Trinculo asked Caliban to take the rest of the clothes, he exploded.
I won't have any of this! We're wasting our time, and then we'll all be turned into geese or apes!
Stefano turned to his insolent subject and barked.
Monster! Help us carry our clothes back to the cave where I've hidden the barrel of wine, or I'll kick you out of my kingdom. Now!
As they started piling clothes onto Caliban's arms, Prospero raised his staff, and a terrible howling ripped through the air. The sound of thunderous paws charged through the trees as a pack of raging dogs attacked. At Prospero and Ariel's prompts, the dogs leapt and snarled at the terrified band of thieves, who were trying to untangle themselves from the heaps of clothes they'd dropped to make their escape. ferocious jaws snapped and fabric tore as the screaming scoundrels ran away with the dogs hot on their trail. Prospero took great pleasure in the men's screams, which were now fading into the distance. He smiled triumphantly.
Hunt them down, my spirits. Right now, all my enemies are at my mercy. All my work will be finished soon, and you shall all breathe the air of freedom. But for a little longer, follow me, and do what I ask of you.
Chapter 10. A Change of Heart. By 6 o'clock, Prospero's plans had reached their climax. He put on his magic cloak and stopped to check that everything was in place for the final act. His staff was in his hand. His spells were holding strong. He had the spirits of the island at his beck and call. All was in order. Their work would soon be finished. He turned to Ariel.
Tell me, my Ariel, how are the king and his men?
They are all confined together just as you commanded, my lord. They're in the grove of lime trees that protect your hut from bad weather. They're all under a spell and unable to move until you release them. The king, his brother, and your brother are all overcome with madness. As for the rest, they are grieving deeply over them. Most of all, your dear Gonzalo, whose tears run down his beard like winter raindrops from the bottom of a thatched roof. If you could see them now, you would feel sorry for them.
Do you think so, Spirit?
Ariel lowered his eyes and answered with a hint of bitterness.
My feelings for them would soften if I were human, sir.
And mine will. If you, who are only made of air, can sympathize with them, then I, who am one of their kind and can feel pain just as much as they do, feel even worse. Though I resent the wrong they did me, I'll follow my nobler instincts. Virtue is far less common than vengeance, after all. Since they have repented, my aim has been achieved. Go release them, Ariel. I'll break my spells and restore their senses.
Ariel dashed away, leaving his master alone outside his hut. Prospero drew a circle in the dirt with his staff and addressed all the magical creatures of the island.
You elves who live in the hills and brooks and groves have been indispensable to me all these years. With your help, I've called up the angry winds and set the sea at war with the sky. I've given lightning to the thunder and shaken up the rocky cliffs. But as I summon this heavenly music to finish my last task, I surrender all this magic. I'll break my staff and bury it deep in the ground. I'll drown my book in the ocean, deeper than any anchor has ever reached.
At that, the sound of somber music approached, and soon Ariel returned with the enchanted prisoners. Alonso, Sebastian and Antonio were still under the grip of madness, and the rest of their companions were trying to tend to them. Under the spell's influence and the comforting power of the sweet melody, they all followed Ariel into the circle and stood. With a wave of his staff, Prospero reversed the spell.
Their awareness will return gradually, just like the day slowly melts away the darkness of the night
He walked closer to the circle, and with gratitude and unshed tears in his eyes, stood before Gonzalo.
Good Gonzalo, you honorable man. You are my savior, and have been a loyal man to me. I'll repay your honor fully, both in word and action.
Prospero blinked, and then turned a bitter eye to his former arch-enemy, Alonso, and his brother Sebastian.
You, Alonso, used my daughter and me most cruelly, and your brother assisted you in the act. That's why you're also tormented now, Sebastian.
When he approached Antonio, though, there was pain in Prospero's eyes.
And you, my own flesh and blood, my brother, allowed greed and ambition to overcome you, and cast away your conscience and your humanity, and along with Sebastian, whose inner guilt is the strongest, would have killed your own king here on this island. I do forgive you, despite your unnatural behavior as a brother.
Even though the spell was not completely lifted yet, Prospero could see awareness slowly dawning in his prisoner's eyes, and ordered Ariel to bring him his duke's clothes. Ariel, elated with his imminent release from Prospero's command, sang a happy tune while he helped the sorcerer change in order to appear once again as the Duke of Milan.
Where the beast sucks, there's a guy in a cowslip's bare alive. Then a couch where owls do cry. On the bat's back I do fly. After summer merrily, after summer merrily. Where the beast sucks, there's a guy in a cowslip's bare alive. Merrily, merrily shall I let now, under the blossom that hangs on the bough.
Prospero smiled.
I'll miss you, my Ariel, but you will be free at last. Stay invisible, and go to the king's ship. Find the captain and the boatswain who will have woken by now, and bring them to me quickly, please.
Ariel disappeared just as Gonzalo started to come to his senses.
Torment, trouble, wonder and amazement inhabits this place. Heavenly powers, please guide us out of this country.
When everyone had fully regained consciousness again, Prospero took a step forward and proudly bowed before the king.
Behold, your highness, Prospero, the wronged Duke of Milan.
Everyone's eyes widened, and gasps of surprise escaped their lips. Prospero smiled.
For you to be sure I'm not a ghost, I will embrace you, sir. I heartily welcome you and your company.
Alonso placed a hand over Prospero's chest.
I don't know if this is a magic trick, but your heart beats like you're real. And ever since I saw you, my mind has been released from the madness that held me.
Shame and remorse covered the king's face as he continued.
I resign
Chapter
from
10,
your dukedom
A
and
Change
beg
of
your
Heart.
forgiveness for the wrongs I have done. But how is it possible that you are alive and living on
By
this
6
island?
o'clock, Prospero's
First,
plans
let
had
me
reached
embrace
their
my
climax.
old friend Gonzalo
He
here.
put on his
whose honor
magic
cannot
coat
be measured
and stopped
or
to check
confined.
that everything was in place. Seeing the
For the
stunned
final
expression
act.
on his friend's face as they
His
embraced,
staff was in his hand.
Prospero explained
His
that
spells were
though the
holding
island
strong.
was full of illusions,
He had the spirits of the
was quite
island
real.
at his beck and call.
As he
was in
welcomed
order.
everyone again, their
He
work
bent
would
his
soon
head
be
towards
finished.
Sebastian and
He
Antonio
turned to Ariel
and spoke softly.
Tell me, my
so
Ariel,
only the two could hear
how
him.
are the king and his men? As for you two,
They are all
lords,
confined together, just as you
I
commanded,
could
my
easily
lord.
hand you over
They're
to
in
the
the
king
grove
as
of lime
traitors
trees
if I
that
wanted.
protect your hut from bad weather.
But for now,
They're all
I
under a
won't say
spell
anything.
and unable to move
Sebastian
until
paled.
you release
Evil
them.
spirits are speaking
The
through
king,
him.
his
Prospero
brother,
let out a
and your
scornful
brother
laugh.
are all overcome with madness.
As for you, most wicked
They are
sir,
grieving deeply
whom
over
to
them.
call brother would taint
Most
my
of all,
mouth.
your dear Gonzalo,
I
whose
forgive
tears
you for
run
all
down
your
his beard
sins
like
and
winter
demand my
raindrops
dukedom
from the
back.
bottom of a thatched
The silent
roof.
battle of cold stares
you could
between
see
the
them
two
now,
brothers was interrupted
You would
by
feel
the
sorry
king.
for them.
He wished to know more
Do you
about their
think so,
unexpected
Spirit?
meeting on this island, and started
Ariel
first by
lowered his
recounting
eyes
their shipwreck
and answered
and the
with a
painful
hint
lot
of
of
bitterness.
his son.
My feelings
I
for
am
them would
sorry,
soften if
for I understand
were
your
human,
pain.
sir.
I too have lost my daughter.
Alonso
if you
was saddened
who are
by
only
this
made
news.
of air can sympathize with them, then I, who am one of
only
their
they were
kind and
both
can feel
alive and
pain
maple,
just as much as they do,
ruling as
feel
king and
even
queen.
worse.
I wish I
Though
was
I
the one
resent the
buried
wrong
in the
they
mud
did me,
when my son
I'll
dies now.
follow my
When
nobler
did you lose your
instincts.
daughter?
Virtue in this recent storm, my lord. But since they have repented, my aim has been achieved. This humble hut is my royal release to Ariel. I'll break my spells and restore their senses. Please take a look in.
Ariel
You have
dashed away,
returned my dukedom
leaving
to
his
me.
master alone
So I will
outside
repay
his
you
hut.
with something of equal
Prospero
value.
drew a circle in the dirt with
these
his staff
words,
and
Prospero
addressed
pulled
all
back
the
a
magical
curtain,
creatures of the
and the
island.
king's jaw
You
dropped in
elves who
astonishment.
live in the hills and
Ferdinand
brooks and
and
groves
Miranda
have
were
been
sitting
indispensable to me
merrily
all
and
these
playing a game of
years.
chess.
With your help, I
Father
called up
and
the
son
angry winds
cried out
and set the
joyfully
sea
at the
at
miracle
war
of
with the
their
sky.
reunion,
I've
while
given
Miranda
lightning to
gazed
the
in
thunder
awe at
and
the
shaken
sight
up
of
the
so many
rocky
people.
cliffs. But as
How
I summon this
wonderful.
heavenly music to
How
finish
many
my last
good-looking
task,
creatures there are here.
I surrender
How
all
beautiful
this magic.
mankind is. Oh,
I'll break
brave
my staff
new world
and bury
that
it
has
deep in the
such
ground.
people in it.
I'll
It's
drown
only
my
new to
book in the ocean, deeper than any
When
anchor has
Ferdinand
ever
explained
reached.
to his father that Miranda was Prospero's
At
daughter,
that,
and
the
the
sound
maiden
of
he
somber
had chosen
music
to marry,
approached,
and
Alonso
soon
begged
Ariel
her to
returned
forgive him
with
for
the
his
enchanted
cruel
prisoners.
behavior 12 years earlier.
Alonso, Sebastian, and Antonio
Prospero, however,
were still under the
encouraged
grip of
everyone
madness, to leave the
and
gloomy
the rest of their
memories
companions
aside. Were trying to tend to them.
Let's not burden ourselves with
Under
heavy
the
memories
spell's
that are now
influence
gone.
and the comforting
Gonzalo
power of the
agreed
sweet melody,
and turned to
they
bless
all
the couple
followed
first,
Ariel into the
still
circle,
astonished
and
at the
stood unexpected turn of events.
With a wave of his staff,
Let us
Prospero
rejoice!
reversed the spell.
In one voyage,
Their
Claribel found
awareness
her
will
husband in
return
Tunis,
gradually,
and her
just
brother
like the
Ferdinand
days
found a
slowly
wife
melts
where he
away the
himself was
darkness of the
lost.
night.
He walked closer to
Prospero
the
found
circle,
his dukedom
and
on a
with
poor
gratitude
island,
and
we
unshed tears
all
in his
found
eyes,
ourselves
stood
when we
before
lost
Gonzalo.
control of ourselves.
Good Gonzalo, you
Everyone
honorable
cheered
man.
in agreement, and the
You
king took the
are
young
my
couple's hands
savior,
and joined them
and
together.
have been a loyal man to
With
me.
his own hands clasped
I'll
over them,
repay
he
your
gave his
honor
blessing.
fully, both in word
Let
and
grief
action.
and sorrow embrace the heart of
Prospero blinked,
whoever does
and
not
then
wish
turned a
you
bitter
joy.
eye to his former
At
arch
this
enemy,
point,
Alonso,
Ariel returned
and
with
his
the
brother
captain and the
Sebastian,
boatswain of the ship.
You,
and Gonzalo
Alonso,
exclaimed when he saw them.
used my daughter and
Oh,
me
look.
most cruelly.
I had predicted
And your
that this
brother
fellow
assisted
would
you in
not
the act.
drown, so
That's
long
why
as there
you're
are
also
gallows on
tormented
land.
now, Sebastian.
When
the
he
captain
approached
and the
Antonio,
boatswain
though,
updated
there
the
was
king
pain in
about the
Prospero's
miraculously
eyes.
perfect state
And
of the
you,
ship.
He shook
my
his head in
own
amazement.
flesh and blood.
Prospero
My
promised
brother
to explain everything
allowed
later,
greed
and then
ambition
turned to
to
Ariel.
overcome you. My
And
attentive
cast
spirit
away your conscience
set
and your
Caliban and his
humanity.
companions free now, and along with
Break the
Sebastian,
spell
whose
that
inner
ties
guilt
them
is
to
the
my
strongest Tempest, would have killed
Soon,
your own
the three
king
thieves,
here on this
still wearing
island.
their stolen clothes,
I
stood
do forgive
trembling
you,
before Prospero
despite
and the king.
your unnatural behavior
The
as
sight
a
of them
brother.
caused Sebastian to laugh out loud, even though the spell was not completely lifted
What are
yet.
those, my lord
Prospero
Antonio?
could see awareness
Can we sell them?
slowly dawning in his prisoner's eyes,
Most probably.
and
That
ordered
one over
Ariel
there
to
looks
bring him
beastly.
his duke's
He'd
clothes.
fetch a handsome price, no doubt.
Ariel,
After
elated
Prospero
with his
explained
imminent
the
crimes
crimes
from
the
three
Prospero's
rogues had
command
committed to the
sang
king,
a happy
she
tune
looked at Caliban
while he helped the sorcerer
He
change
is as ugly
in
in his
order to
manners
appear once
as
again
in his shape,
as the
my
Duke
lord.
of Milan.
Caliban, go to my hut and take the others with you. If you want my forgiveness, tidy up and decorate it handsomely.
Caliban quivered and bowed low.
Yes, my lord, and I'll be wise from now on. I was an idiot 6 times over to worship a drunkard for a god and want him as my master.
The three thieves ran to execute their orders. Prospero invited Alonso and his men to spend the evening in his hut, promising to recount the story of his life and all that had happened to him on the island. In the morning, they would all sail to Naples to see Ferdinand and Miranda married. Alonso was intrigued.
I'll miss you,
Your
my
life
Ariel,
story must be such a
but
strange
you will be
tale.
free at last.
Prospero
Stay
smiled.
invisible. I will
And
tell
go
you
to
to the
everything.
king's ship, and I promise we
Find
will
the
have calm
captain
seas
and the
and
boatswain
favourable
who will have
winds on
woken
our
by
way
now.
back, and bring them to me quickly, please.
When everyone
Ariel
had gone into
disappeared,
Prospero's hut,
just as
he
Gonzalo
turned to
started
to come to his senses.
My Ariel, our safe return is your last task.
Torment,
And
trouble,
then to the elements be free.
wonder, and amazement
Farewell,
inhabits
my dear
this
spirit.
place. Heavenly
Joyous laughter
powers,
chimed as
please
Ariel
guide us
span
out of
through
this
the rustling
country.
leaves of the island. When
On his
everyone
way
had
to
fully
freedom,
regained consciousness again,
Prospero
Prospero's
took a
gaze
step
followed
forward
him as
and
he proudly
faded into
bowed
the
before the
distance.
king.
Behold,
Then
your highness,
he broke his staff
Prospero,
and
the
raised his
wronged Duke of
weary
Milan.
face to the sky. Everyone's
Lit by
eyes
the
shimmering
shimmering
light of the
and
stars. Gasps of surprise escaped. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes, smiled.
For
My
you to be
spells
sure
are
I'm not a
all
ghost,
broken
I will
now,
embrace you,
and
sir.
I have no other
I
power
heartily
but my
welcome you
own,
and your company.
which
isn't great.
Alonso placed a hand over
Please
Prospero's
don't
chest.
keep me prisoner
I
here
don't
on this
know if
island
this is a
any
magic
longer.
trick, but your
Release
heart
me,
beats
so
like you're
I can
real.
return home.
And ever since I saw you,
I have
my
no more
mind
spirits
has been
to enslave,
released from the
or
madness
magic
that
to cast
held me.
spells with.
Shame
So
and
please
remorse
listen to this
covered the
prayer
king's face
and
as he
absolve me
continued.
of all my sins
I resign
and
from your
faults.
dukedom and beg your
Forgive me,
forgiveness for the wrongs
and
I
set
have
me
done.
free.
How is it possible that you are alive and living on this island?
First, let me embrace my old friend Gonzalo here, whose honor cannot be measured or confined.
Seeing the stunned expression on his friend's face as they embraced, Prospero explained that, though the island was full of illusions, he was quite real. As he welcomed everyone again, he bent his head towards Sebastian and Antonio and spoke softly, so only the two could hear him.
As for you two lords, I could easily hand you over to the king as traitors if I wanted. But for now, I won't say anything.
Sebastian paled.
Evil spirits are speaking through him!
Prospero let out a scornful laugh.
No. As for you, most wicked sir, whom to call brother would taint my mouth, I forgive you for all your sins and demand my dukedom back.
The silent battle of cold stares between the two brothers was interrupted by the king. He wished to know more about their unexpected meeting on this island, and started first by recounting their shipwreck and the painful loss of his son.
I am sorry, sir, for I understand your pain. I, too, have lost my daughter.
Alonso was saddened by this news.
Oh heavens! If only they were both alive in Naples, ruling as king and queen. I wish I was the one buried in the mud where my son lies now.
When did you lose your daughter?
In this recent storm, my lord. But let's not talk more of this now. This humble hut is my royal court on the island. You will find no servants or subjects in it, but please take a look in. You have returned my dukedom to me, so I will repay you with something of equal value.
With these words, Prospero pulled back a curtain, and the king's jaw dropped in astonishment. Ferdinand and Miranda were sitting merrily and playing a game of chess. Father and son cried out joyfully at the miracle of their reunion, while Miranda gazed in awe at the sight of so many people.
How wonderful! How many good-looking creatures there are here! How beautiful mankind is! Oh, brave new world that has such people in it!
It's only new to you, my daughter.
When Ferdinand explained to his father that Miranda was Prospero's daughter and the maiden he had chosen to marry, Alonso begged her to forgive him for his cruel behavior 12 years earlier. Prospero, however, encouraged everyone to leave the gloomy memories aside.
Let's not burden ourselves with heavy memories that are now gone.
Gonzalo agreed and turned to bless the couple first, still astonished at the unexpected turn of events.
Let us rejoice! In one voyage, Claribel found her husband in Tunis, and her brother Ferdinand found a wife where he himself was lost. Prospero found his dukedom on a poor island, and we all found ourselves when we lost control of ourselves.
Everyone cheered in agreement, and the king took the young couple's hands and joined them together. With his own hands clasped over them, he gave his blessing.
Let grief and sorrow embrace the heart of whoever does not wish you joy.
At this point, Ariel returned with the captain and the boatswain of the ship, and Gonzalo exclaimed when he saw them.
Oh, look! I had predicted that this fellow would not drown so long as there are gallows on land.
When the captain and the boatswain updated the king about the miraculously perfect state of the ship, he shook his head in amazement. Prospero promised to explain everything later, and then turned to Ariel.
My attentive spirit, go set Caliban and his companions free now. Break the spell that ties them to my command.
Soon, the three thieves, still wearing their stolen clothes, stood trembling before Prospero and the king. The sight of them caused Sebastian to laugh out loud.
What are those, my lord Antonio? Can we sell them?
Most probably. That one over there looks beastly. He'd fetch a handsome price, no doubt.
After Prospero explained the crimes the three rogues had committed to the king, he looked at Caliban.
He is as ugly in his manners as in his shape, my lord. Caliban, go to my hut and take the others with you. If you want my forgiveness, tidy up and decorate it handsomely.
Caliban quivered and bowed low.
Yes, my lord, and I'll be wise from now on. I was an idiot 6 times over to worship a drunkard for a god and want him as my master.
The three thieves ran to execute their orders. Prospero invited Alonso and his men to spend the evening in his hut, promising to recount the story of his life and all that had happened to him on the island. In the morning, they would all sail to Naples to see Ferdinand and Miranda married. Alonso was intrigued.
Your life story must be such a strange tale.
Prospero smiled.
I will tell you everything, and I promise we will have calm seas and favorable winds on our way back.
When everyone had gone into Prospero's hut, he turned to Ariel.
My Ariel, our safe return is your last task. And then to the elements be free. Farewell, my dear spirit.
Joyous laughter chimed as Ariel span through the rustling leaves of the island on his way to freedom. Prospero's gaze followed him as he faded into the distance. Then he broke his staff and raised his weary face to the sky, lit by the shimmering light of the stars. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes.
My spells are all broken now, and I have no other power but my own, which isn't great. Please don't keep me prisoner here on this island any longer. Release me, so I can return home. I have no more spirits to enslave, or magic to cast spells with. So please listen to this prayer, and absolve me of all my sins and faults. Forgive me, and set me free.